The thing that I see with the eating orders, and when we discussed before with anorexia, was just it's not just a thing. There's a whole bunch of different ways in which the poor person who is suffering from the problem is being affected. But that also gives the therapist a number of opportunities to try and make some impact, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think it's probably, or it is relevant though, to understand what are sort of like, I guess, transdiagnostic kind of factors. So for instance, the physical metabolic one we need to understand. And ultimately the answer tends to actually be the same for all eating disorders, which is the regular eating and ensuring that you have the regular food groups and so on. So that's actually quite an important message. How we get there and what is getting in the way for the individual with the different presentations, that's where the different kind of treatment angles come in. I mean, before we finish, I want to just mention one more eating disorder which has only more recently been included in the DSM-5. It's the avoidant-restrictive food intake disorder, which tends to affect young people. I just want to mention it briefly. It's basically for people who end up avoiding food, and then over time their food groups or their diet becomes more and more restrictive, extremely so that some might even end up also being of low weight or have significant psychosocial impairments because they will only eat beige foods or will only eat whatever it might be. So one used to think, it's fussy eating and get your act together. And so I have seen quite a large number of young people and their families who have had long history of having had very unhelpful advice. So it's quite important to recognize there is a subgroup who present with usually sensory hypersensitivity. So in other words, I have a very strong response to texture, taste, smell, those kind of perception. Often starts already very, very early on. We sometimes see it in the context of other neurodevelopmental disorders, often in the context of autism spectrum disorder or traits thereof. So that's sort of like one, I think, some important to know that group also exists. Under the ARFID is a bit more of an umbrella diagnosis. We also have a subgroup who just have no interest in food. Okay? Again, where the kind of metabolic aspect comes in. No interest. Forget about it, can't be bothered, it's a chore. If it was up to me, I'm just quoting basically, if it's up to me, could just be a tube of food squeezed into my mouth every day and finished. Or if it was a pill, even better. And so in other words, they sit metabolically and in terms of on the other end, as say someone with that more drawn to food that would end up with binge eating.
Well, if you want to know more about the science of psychotherapy, come across to our website, thescienceofpsychotherapy.com, and our podcast of the same name, and learn more about the science of you.